Batman here. Recently I've done research on a man that I once thought to be a myth, but it's becoming evident that he might not be a myth after all. When I was younger, Alfred would tell me stories of him in World War II all the time. But this one was different. He said one of his comrades back in Germany in 1944 during the Battle of the Bulge in the snowy Ardennes forest. There was rumor of a huge wolf in the mountains helping the Americans. Sometimes there would be groups of Germans, and the Americans would be pinned down. The Americans were ready to accept fate, but then all of a sudden things would get quiet in the mountains. All they could hear was the snow falling. And then out of nowhere the Americans would hear what it sounded like a bunch of Germans screaming in fear and agony. The screams weren't just any screams of pain. No, the Americans have heard screams from bullets, but this traumatized even the Americans. Later, when the Americans moved forward, they found them, hundreds of German soldiers torn to pieces. These weren't bullets that did this. Agamemnon contingency, file code name, the Wolverine. I've heard the rumors and I know they're true, but I know your real name, James Howlett. Recently, I've learned of an experiment that happened many years ago. It was called Weapon X. I believe it was conducted upon Mr. James. And if my calculations are correct, this would mean his entire skeleton would be fused with an extremely durable metal named adamantium. And this includes whatever kind of claws he used to cut up those soldiers in the mountains all those years ago. It also states in the files that he has a unique healing factor ability, allowing his body to quickly regenerate any lost cells. And it also states that he has the smell and sense of a wolf. Now this would be a challenge, but if it must be done, the following protocol should be enacted. It's clear that his healing factor has given him some sort of immortality. Clearly, the Wolverine's claws are his main weapon, so keeping distance would be necessary for survival. Also, as the Batman, I tend to hide in the dark. That would not work on him because of his acute senses. The best place to engage with the Wolverine would be out in the open because at tight spaces he has the advantage on you and can sense where you are every moment. But if you're out in the open, at least you'll be able to see him at all times. And going into the fight without any advanced weaponry like he has would be futile and definitely leave you dead. So the best course of action I've come up with is to give him more of the very thing that's keeping him alive. Although James has a healing factor, with that amount of adamantium in his body, I'm willing to bet it has definitely affected him and slows down his healing process. Adamantium poisoning. If the metal already poisons him, what would happen if you gave him a little more to help? In theory, this should increase the poisoning exponentially, and if done correctly, it would incapacitate him, and if done even more, would kill him. But the problem would be adding more adamantium into his body. To do this, you could not be in close quarters with the beast, so you would need to develop an adamantium gun strong enough and fast enough to penetrate his body with adamantium bullets that would then inject an additional amount of adamantium into his body. This is possible with the technology available now. This is the best strategy I've been able to identify. However, I would also be interested in seeing what would happen if you were able to drown Mr. Howlett, or keep him trapped in water permanently. Best of luck in Batman. Signing off.